people really care about? What kinds of things can we reward them with? That's for us.
Like I said, so like this, similar to this Izu project, there's another one called Psychedelics Anonymous, where by owning one of their NFTs, you get free access to therapists. That's what they give, that because they want example. Exactly. Like they want the
because therapy's very expensive.
That's right.
You know, like
speaking of, welcome to Very Chat.
Ooh.
Hello, we're live.
I didn't see that.
You can see we were having a bit of a discussion about NFTs, and you probably heard the buzzword NFT somewhere at some place, and if this is the first time you're hearing it, that's totally okay.
If none of this makes any sense, that's okay too.
That's kind of the whole point. You know, it's still a very foreign concept for a lot of people, including us, you know, but we do believe that this technology called an NFT is probably going to be a big part of commerce, of transactions, of the way you interact with the internet and with each other, you know, in the next over the next couple of years and beyond. You may not even know that you're using an NFT at some point, and we'll talk a little bit about that. So, April, first, I want to start with what do you think an NFT is?
Okay, so honestly...
By the way, we just had about a 45-minute discussion about this because there's a lot. It's really quite complicated, and we want to try to make it a little bit more approachable. So we're going to try to keep it simple today. We're only going to talk. We're only going to go for about 15 minutes and just try to get the very basics of what an NFT is down, so that you can kind of understand where it fits in the real world and in real applications.
So, for me, I think an NFT for me, I'm way less acquainted with NFTs than they are. So for me, an NFT, I started hearing the word a lot, and a lot of like, you know, the crypto, and like I knew it was in some way intertwined, but I couldn't understand how. But when I started seeing like the little drawings, like little arts and little cards, and I bought this NFT and people talking about the money and stuff, I was like, maybe it's your profile picture for your cryptocurrency.
Sure.
That's what I thought. But then people started talking about different...
That's fair. That's actually really fair. Yeah, I understand that.
And for me, crypto was Bitcoin, was Ether, was this, but then... And I mean, it's not that I'm super involved in it. I don't really understand a lot of it, but I've heard more about it in previous years. And then when I started seeing that there was like these hippos and the whatever, and I started getting confused because I was like, when I heard, I can only buy this NFT with Ether. Because in the other one, I cannot buy with... No.
All right. Maybe this is a good... Let's differentiate between cryptocurrency and NFT and blockchain. Okay?
Oh, math.
All right.
Okay.
So everybody knows the internet as it exists today. It's a bunch of servers talking to each other, right? And we don't have to get into the technical pieces of this, but basically... a lot of the information about the internet lives on databases or on different servers throughout the world. And what a lot of developers realized was that you lose a lot of trust and you lose a lot of information by having it segmented on different servers and databases. In fact, why a lot of companies are really, really valuable today is because they have a lot of data on us personally, actually. And a lot of developers knew that this was really wrong in what they call Web 2, which is what the internet is today that we're operating on, okay? And they just thought, well, there's gotta be a better way so that a single company can't hold so much information. This wasn't the entire, driving force behind blockchain, but it was a big part of, it's a big aspect of why blockchain is a good technology for the future of the internet. The blockchain, the way you can think about this, is it is just a list of transactions and records that continues to grow. But instead of living on one computer, it lives on many computers throughout the world that say, yes, that transaction is legitimate and we're going to allow it to be added to the blockchain or to a block. And once that's done, basically that transaction lives forever.
You can't delete the history.
You can't delete it. We can actually look it up with an address, an ID, and say, I can point at that specific thing that happened on X date, whenever, between these two people, without any question of the validity of that transaction. It's called a trustless transaction. The blockchain is what all of this crap we're talking about is built on top of, meaning everything that happens gets recorded in a block.
So it's
that
like
gets verified by other people.
A report of all the
report, ledger,
ledger. It's an accounting. A ledger is an accounting
track.
Accounting of your transactions, and that is basically what it is. There are some other advancements in terminology around that, but that's the basis. So cryptocurrency, cryptocurrency was they are coins that were built on top of the blockchain, and maybe a certain number of them were created. I'm gonna really butcher this probably.
Keep it very high level, yeah.
But it is a coin that says, there's 50,000 of these. People started trading them, and they started being accepted in exchange for other things, which built value over time. So Bitcoin early on, there's a famous, I think it's a Reddit thread. A guy literally tried to pay for somebody to bring him a pizza in Bitcoin. And at the time, I think he offered up to like 30 Bitcoin.
I don't remember what Bitcoin was, but it was less than $1 probably.
He ended up offering like 30 Bitcoin to get a pizza delivered to him, just to see if he could create a transaction, right? To exchange Bitcoin for something of value, which is the exact purpose of money, right? And he couldn't do it for a long time. And I think eventually the story goes that he did get a pizza delivered, and he paid like 30 Bitcoin or 100 Bitcoin or something, which by the way would be worth like over $2 million today.
How many pizzas?
Which is crazy, but it was an absurd amount of Bitcoin at the time, but was worth very, very little because nobody was using it as a store of value for exchange.
Nobody believed in it or had
belief. Belief is a key term here.
Yeah.
Because we now believe that Bitcoin has inherent value and that it can be used to exchange. In fact, you can
the same way we believe that a dollar has inherent value.
It requires
it's a piece of paper, right?
It requires shared.
We just all agree
myths.
that it's worth this much money.
It requires shared myths. Okay.
That's true.
That has now happened to the point where Bitcoin is worth about $20,000 a piece right now, each Bitcoin, but it was a limited supply. So the idea is that because these are now being used for exchange of value, they now have value. In fact, you can get paychecks in it. I think it was,
I think there
was the country in South America that just staked against
Is it Brazil?
Bitcoin?
No.
Was it? No.
It was
Ecuador or
Paraguay?
No, we'll have to look it up. We'll have to fact check that. There is a country in either Latin America or South America that has adopted Bitcoin as their national currency. Okay, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So cryptocurrency are just the coins. It's a system of money that got created on blockchain, and all of those transactions in cryptocurrency. El Salvador, yes, El Salvador. Okay. All of those transactions are recorded on the blockchain. Well, they only enabled some very simple transactions. This thing for that, or I was going to transfer you cryptocurrency. They needed to figure out a way to transact more complex things.
Yeah.
Okay. Where maybe you don't get the thing until you prove that you have the money in the bank, or these different things. And what they ended up developing, I won't get into the whole history of Ethereum, but Vitalik Buterin, who's a young Russian genius, created Ethereum, which is similar to the blockchain, but it's like its own blockchain now. It's and it enabled something called smart contracts.
Oh, okay, that's where that comes from.
That can interact with the blockchain, meaning you can write code in this contract that determines how it's going to act or settle a transaction. Okay, I know we're getting a little off base here.
Okay.
But blockchain is the thing it's built on. Cryptocurrency is a piece of money. And now we're at an NFT. An NFT, or known as a non-fungible token, meaning non-fungible in conventional sense. Fungible means the ability to be replicated. Non-fungible would therefore mean that this thing is unique and cannot be replicated.
So even though you could go online, and the classic thing is like right click and save a picture of someone else's NFT, with the fact that it's non-fungible, I can actually go to the blockchain and actually see who owns that. Even though we have the exact same picture, in our possession, I can actually see who actually owns that physical piece of,
and I think
that digital piece of.
Conceptually, what's really different between a cryptocurrency like a Bitcoin and an NFT, they are both token. You notice you have token in both the names. They're considered tokens on the blockchain. The NFT has a smart contract attached to it, to the ID, to the NFT itself, that dictates
locate it or
what that NFT gives you, what that NFT does, when it does it, including things like paying royalties to the originator of a song or of a purse or...
So it's basically something it's a contract where you pay something, but that gives you whatever the contract says, you'll gain all of that.
And there's nothing you can do.
Because it's trustless, so you don't have to go through a person to do it. It is computer code that you can't mess with.
That will be.
So let's talk about some different kinds of NFTs.
Okay.
So the craze right now, and we are at the very beginning tail of how NFTs will be used, and I think a lot of people get turned off for a lot of reasons. What are some reasons like...
Well, I guess it's just
super complicated.
There's so many words that are very complicated and new, like Web3. I didn't know what that was until you told me. Like what?
So Web3 is the idea that we would have the internet hosted on the blockchain and you'd actually interact.
You can interact with them and all. But I think mostly it creates a lot of like uncertainty on like what's the real value of that? Like, because this is disappearing from a bank account, and I just have these, like, what if I need this money? I don't understand. Like, how can I use this money? Like, it's just a little complicated, and as well, since you don't know, since you can't see anyone, like you said, like, it's almost like your avatar. It's like, who are you?
And there's nobody to complain to.
And there's no mediator, if someone, like, I guess, I don't know, like, someone hacks my bank account, and... like it happened, but you can contact the bank. But what do I do here? And it's just a little scary to walk into that without knowing. Like, and it's just really complicated to understand sometimes.
And for everybody out there, I mean, this is a real thing, and why
you gotta believe
it took us.
That is
the adoption has been slow by the masses because there are a lot of scams and a lot of things to learn technically before you really get involved. But here's what here's how I would think about them for everybody. You are going to interact with NFTs, whether you know it or not. Probably very soon, in fact, because NFTs will become the means of transferring or transacting anything on the internet. Like any purchase, any ticket, any song, anything that requires a transaction, sending money back to your mom in Mexico, or remittance, sending money to China to a vendor, buying a ticket on a ticket exchange. They all will be represented by NFTs that have a smart contract that settles that transaction.
So it's safe and like it can't be changed and it can be tracked. Okay.
It creates what's called the middleman. Yes, I think so. Let's talk about a couple different types of NFTs. We're at about 14 minutes already, which is awesome, but we just go really fast. What NFTs have you heard of?
So I've heard about the BFF ones and the women with weapons one.
Women and weapons. We have one of
so
those.
I basically heard more about the women's ones. Honestly, they're just a little bit more approachable because women try and they use another kind of language a lot, and it just makes it a little bit like more subtle.
And as you kind of talked about a little bit earlier, not on the show here, but before we jumped on, is like it's a very much a male-dominated space right now.
It is.
And that's another piece of why it's like super intimidating for women as well because of that simple factor. So like finding ones like that can be super.
Yeah, it was.
I think we can break that down on a separate one about like how do we help people get in. What I would like to establish for everybody right here is like to just have a concept of what an NFT is.
So I think
the famous one. I'll give the famous example, and then we'll kind of put this into context. Right. Okay, is Bored Ape Yacht Club.
Okay? Oh yeah,
it's called
right.
BAPE.
The ape one.
Jimmy Fallon, Snoop Dogg, Eminem,
Steph
Curry, bunch of really famous people have bought these stinking JPEGs and nobody knows why.
Monkeys, yeah.
Okay? And they're apes, they're monkeys. And then, someone like April, you would look at that and go, why? What is the point?
People are spending $150K on
I didn't understand. Like, who's
These
the
are literally
author?
well over $100,000.
Yeah.
Like, who's the author of the drawing? Or
right.
what's that? Like, you instantly see it as in the normal world when you don't understand that back
And
part.
I don't know the whole history of how they started getting traction and value, but basically, it is an exclusive club. Now, this is, to put this into context, this is one very, very small, tiny application example of an NFT. But the NFT is the ape that you buy. But that ape is your pass into the Bored Ape Yacht Club. It literally has club in its name.
Where you can hang and interact with those people.
And they have actually had in real life events, but they also are on Twitter and Discord, and sometimes you might have Snoop Dogg drop into your Discord chat. And you may literally be corresponding with somebody super famous that you never had access for.
And you're sure they're them.
And it's them. And you're sure it's them. That's a good point, right? This has been verified. This is what created incredible value and hype for this project. Now,
club part.
There's other things that they provide their members, including value in the token itself, but also other access to things in the metaverse, which we won't touch on today, but also exclusive brand partnerships that maybe they get discounts or access to really, really exclusive events where you probably will have some celebrities hanging out. And if you're Joe Schmo, that's a pretty cool club to be in.
Right.
It created a lot of hype. So
it's like, honestly, like a Soho house, like, it's that it's actually just a bar restaurant, but you have to be a member to go there. And
there are restaurant clubs like
that.
And
those could pay dividends because of the connections that you can make from being within that club.
And it makes it more special because it's, I can go there and it'll be quiet, I'm a member, I won't have to wait, you're maybe special.
Maybe you get special discounts.
Yeah. You're VIP kind of, part of that club.
So
what it offers.
It took off in value. I mean, the token itself, if you wanted to buy a Bored Ape today, would be in the $200,000 range plus, I think.
That's a lot of money.
So we asked the question, like, what is the value? Now, it's really important to remember, like, this is just one application. I think the other examples of NFTs that are really clear are like tickets. You want to talk about tickets?
Yeah. So one of the ones I usually like to mention is NFTs being used as ticketing, whether it's for concerts or whether it's for sporting events. So now the way it currently sits, if I'm an artist, let's say I'm Taylor Swift, I sell my tickets for $90 for my upcoming concert. Any individual that bought that ticket can now take this ticket and go to like a StubHub or a Vivid Seats or something like that, and I can maybe resell that for $200. Well, the way it sits right now, as I mentioned, the artist currently does not get any money of that secondary value. If it was in an NFT format, or when it finally gets to an NFT format, now there's smart contracts, as Sam mentioned earlier, in the NFT. So now every time that ticket gets sold on the secondary, a percentage of that goes back to the original artist. So now Taylor Swift might be able to put in there like, okay, 5% of every time this gets resold, I get that. So now when that gets resold for $200, I'm getting money back for that. So now as an artist, as the sports team that originally sold those tickets, I'm now getting money on the secondary market for something that really people are buying because of me, not because of just because the first person bought the ticket.
Now that's for the artist, so that's the artist perspective to the NFT. But what I would say is that the reason places like Ticketmaster, StubHub exist today is because you want to make sure you're not getting screwed. So when you go online and you say, somebody has a ticket for a concert I really want to go to, but how am I sure if I pay $200 for this that I'm actually going to get that ticket?
Tickets.
Well, we go to trusted sources that have created trust and have done enough transactions for us to be like, other people have done it. I think I'm pretty confident buying a ticket on StubHub that I'm going to get that ticket. This is true of NFTs too. The more transactions, the more trust that gets created that it is actually going to happen is going to help adoption. That's a different conversation. But StubHub always gets, 10-15% of every sale on the secondary market. if we were to go into what's called like a trustless transaction, or we were going to do this on the blockchain, you wouldn't need StubHub.
True.
You could find somebody on the blockchain anywhere, and these, you'll see a lot of these marketplaces start to pop up where they're not taking a cut. You may have some transaction fees, but I think it'll reduce the transaction fees a lot. Where we can verify that yes, this ticket is legitimate, and yes, you have enough cryptocurrency or fiat currency, dollars, whatever, in your wallet to pay that, and we're going to allow this transaction to happen. The transfer of that ticket happens immediately into your wallet. And the transfer of that money happens immediately into the seller's wallet. And you didn't have to have anybody in between controlling that transaction. Okay? So you just cut out the 15% that everybody else was taking. Here's an even better example. Remittances. How does remittance work today?
What do you mean?
When you want to send money to your family back in another country, what happens?
It's so difficult. It's just the change in currency. First of all, they take a lot. They put it really, really high, and then
the conversion rate
charge you to convert currency.
Sell and buy, right? Always. It just, you'll always lose.
Yep.
And worst of all, with Western Union is the worst one, because it's mainly for people who have not yet interacted so much with technology, I find. And
why are you having to use Western Union?
Much.
Why are you having to use it?
What do you mean?
Why do you have to use Western Union?
Because there's no other way to
because
send
the
the money.
banks don't talk to each other.
The banks,
international.
Banks don't. Yeah.
It's why you can't use your normal debit card everywhere else in the
you have to let them
country,
know,
right? Because that money, they don't know if you have the money available. They don't talk to each other.
They don't trust, like other.
We can cut out all the banks.
Yeah.
And we can cut out Western Union. Because if you said, hey mom, I want to send you $1,000. And hey mijita, here's my address. Okay, I'm going to send it to you. Done.
Yeah, because...
Whoa. Okay, first of all, cryptocurrency knows no translation or exchange.
No.
Why? Doesn't need to. And you can then exchange it to your fiat currency if you want to.
But it'll be exactly the same worth.
Yeah. You didn't need anybody else to verify the transaction. You didn't need anybody else to transfer the money, to exchange the currency. I think about this too as from a business standpoint. Like if I'm going to pay a vendor in China, we end up paying a lot of banks along the way.
More.
You don't have to do that. It can happen instantaneously based on a smart contract or just a transaction that settles it and says, yes, they have the money. When this goes in, we deposit the asset and it goes into this other wallet. Or you just want to send money to your mom.
And that's it.
That's it.
Because Western Union does
frictionless.
It's just a high percentage, and you have to actually go physically, and you have to
You want to talk about scams, right?
And all. Yeah, that's a lot. It's kind of like a scam that you walk into.
So it is a lot about a lot of the transactions. So we have these profile picture projects, or what we call PFP projects, that are the majority of what NFT attention is on today, or maybe even art pieces that people are collecting, which is a whole nother conversation.
Right.
But in my mind, NFTs are going to be used in every industry, including healthcare, to track your health vitals that can then be shared securely with other doctors across the world. Including in housing transactions where you buy a house and you don't need a title company to record your title, because we can actually record it on the blockchain and there's no question of who owns title.
When I think
you never have a bad title.
Mariana, I think, just got one of April's friends just got her degree. I think as an NFT, like your actual college degree. I think she has the option to at least get her degree as it. So now a potential employer could actually, before you just put on your resume, I went to this college. Now a potential employer can actually see, did you go to this college? Not that matters.
So I hope that there isn't so much fear around this in the coming months and years, because we will create more and more trust in these transactions, meaning the scams will help be prevented. You're going to have some, and look, you're never going to be able to get away from some companies owning a lot of data or controlling a lot of transactions. You need them to create trust. That's actually a big part of this, is being able to, the Web3 purists that say the Facebooks are a day of the past, and you'll never have to have somebody handle your data again. It's just not true because people don't have enough time to be technologically that capable to handle all of this on their own. They're going to need help. And we need to create services and companies and solutions that help create trust and prevent people from getting scammed.
I mean,
that's happening now. That will happen.
And to your point, I mean, I think that we just gotta, like, keep learning about it and try and, understand it so we believe it and not be so afraid of it, with it, like, knowledge is power. You gotta understand it. And I mean, and I gotta say, nothing's perfect, not even blockchain systems or whatever. The thing is that scams still exist even in the real world with our own money.
Exactly.
All the time.
Exactly.
I mean, emails, texts, you get a bunch of scams, everyone, all the time, calls. So it's not like a new thing, it's just a bit more scary because you can't see.
It's just transformed.
And there's nobody to talk to.
It's just a different kind of scam.
There's nobody to go to and say, I got $1,000 stolen out of my wallet.
Exactly.
That's, right now it's very unregulated. But I would encourage you to continue just being open-minded to the idea that NFTs and the blockchain are going to be a really useful thing. Much beyond just the hype of these what we call PFP projects in the art,
And remember, a lot of people called the internet a fad when it first came out, and that it was not going to stick around. It was not going to go anywhere. There was, why are you talking to somebody online? Why
look at us now.
The phrase that I've heard before is like, don't act like your parents did to us when we were first getting online or on social media or anything like that. Like, embrace it, learn about it, because it's not going anywhere.
My approach is even more, I guess, just simplistic. My thought is this: it's a better way of doing things.
Yeah.
If you do not have to pay somebody 20% to send money across a border, or you don't have to pay somebody 20% to transfer a ticket to somebody that wants to go to a concert. Or
you don't lose money changing countries.
Changing country. That's a better way. There's less friction and less loss for you and for everybody involved. So in my mind, that's just a no-brainer. It's obvious that this technology will be used. We just don't know how it will be applied everywhere yet.
It'll be
but be open to
with
the
time
idea
and,
that there are better ways of doing everything, and this is one of those. That I think will be adopted in a lot of really cool ways that we can't even imagine yet.
And I think it'll bring a lot of really good things for everyone. A lot of evolution in terms of currency.
We haven't even talked about all the stuff that we do. The smart contracts are actually really incredible pieces of code, but we'll talk about those later.
And this is something we're looking at doing with the person. That's part of the reason why we're talking about this too. We're looking at building this into Verity and what we're doing. And so this won't be the last conversation we have around NFTs and around this technology, because we think it's going to add a lot of value for what we're trying to build. And for the community that we're trying to...
If you have questions about NFT, blockchain, can't promise we'll be able to answer them, but reach out.
I will learn with you.
Yeah, this is kind of a journey that we're all on, and I think, it's a worthwhile endeavor. If you're curious about it, reach out. We're happy to, figure it out together with everybody, and,
open
please...
all the questions, ideas.
And stay tuned for more, because we are going to start... we do have some plans for how to integrate NFTs into everything we're doing with Verity, but more on that later.
Yep.
So, thank you.
See you guys.